Welcome back everyone to another episode. I'm joined by my co-host Matty Bissett.
Good morning.
I'm Miles O'Kane. Looking forward to taking you along for the ride. My man, Matthew, what is going on? What's new? What's been happening?
Well, back on the 3D printer trade.
I have heard.
Yeah. I made some pretty cool little thingies.
So here we go. So give me 3 everyday situations you'd use this fidget toy, this gadget. Go.
When your children are really irritating because they're not listening to you, clean up your toys, whatever, you do this.
To calm the parent down.
You go like this, and then all of a sudden you forget what you've asked your kids to do. And it's very relaxing, you see. Happens all the time. It's on my house is a mess.
I feel relaxed just watching that, to be honest.
Same as this little bad boy. It just doesn't really do much.
It just looks nice though.
It just looks cool. Serves no actual function in life other than calming my brain.
If you had to, here we go, just to change the script quickly.
Yeah.
If you had to define yourself as a teacher in 3 words, what would those 3 words be?
Bearded child.
There we go, team.
Pretty much sums up how I teach anyway.
Taking on the future generation. Us go. All right, here we go. So, team, all serious today. I want to use this episode to look at trauma-aware teaching, language, predictability, and choice. Okay, obviously, these days in the classroom, there's a lot of stuff going on. Society's changing all the time. We've got our Matthew is our expert in this case.
I wouldn't go an expert. I would say I work with a lot of trauma, very far from an expert, Miles. I'm always learning something.
Okay, so let's start here, Matthew. So, in your eyes, what does trauma look like in the classroom?
It can look like on-task behaviour. It can look like off-task behaviour. It can be someone who's hyper-vigilant. It can be someone who's aloof. It's all over the place. It all depends on the actual student, child, young person, and how they present with trauma. Does that make sense?
Your temperament as a person, that predicts how you're going to react to trauma?
I
would say we're not psychologists or any medical experts.
I would probably say no.
No?
I would say even calm people, calm, collected, level-headed people can react in obviously they react in quite a negative way to trauma. And it might affect their actual personality. That nice, bubbly, outgoing personality, then that person becomes withdrawn.
Right.
While they're trying to process whatever it is.
Right.
That trauma, whatever that trauma is. So it's very hard to tell.
So just go back to your other point, your previous point. So if you had a student that's possibly gone through some trauma previously in their life, and they're on task, so that's how they cope with it in the classroom, and that would be their routine behaviour? Yep,
so they might come in, and the way that they process and keep their life together is they come into the classroom at 8:50, because that's when school starts.
Yeah.
They do everything that is told of them. Yeah. And then they just go on to the next class. They live their day like that at school, and they go home, and they might put themselves in a dark room and cry. They might, who knows what they do when they get home, but at school, they cope by doing the right thing because everyone will leave them alone.
Right.
So then you get the flip side of that is the kids they want to be left alone. They don't want you talking to them. They don't want you looking at them. So then they escalate.
So it's a way of controlling your surroundings in a way? Okay, right, right.
So you look at some of the kids I've taught.
Sorry to cut in. So then control that equates to predictability? Okay, right, sorry.
So if you look at some of the kids I currently work with, they have a lot of trauma. They have various forms of trauma, and what they do is they push the boundaries. They'll push, because every adult, in their eyes, I'm not saying every adult has, but in their eyes, has at some point abandoned them.
Right.
So what these kids will do is they might do a little bit of work, they'll see how happy you get, and then they'll swear at you or they'll push you away to see the real you, to see how you actually react. And they judge based on that. That's why the kids with trauma often, not always, they come across as aggressive. They come across as, doesn't like anyone. They actually want to like people. They want friends.
But they want to
teachers
test what's out there, see what they're...
because they don't trust people. Because all the people that they've trusted in their life have done something to them, whatever it may be. So that's sort of why being consistent in your responses, being consistent in your classroom practices, being consistent with your expectations, holding an expectation, not giving in just because someone has trauma. But then the flip side is if you're expecting them to do something that clearly elicits a trauma response, don't make them do it.
That's fine. So let's drill down deeper here. So how does the language you use as a teacher, how does that shape safety in a classroom?
It sort of needs to be direct, explicit, and for the most part positive. Now you can't speak positively all the time. You just can't. It's not possible. It's not how words work.
Right.
But the majority of what a child, especially or a young person who has trauma, they actually don't hear your words first. They look at you, how you stand, your face, the tone of your voice.
So tone's such a big one because they're trying to see if you escalate or not?
To see, because again, you don't know what these kids, what their home life is like, what trauma they have.
Sure.
Do they get yelled at a lot? Or do they hear absolutely everything's lovey and lovey-dovey and everyone getting along, and then all of a sudden a parent just absolutely loses their mind and yelling is what triggers them. You don't actually know. So the more consistent you can be, the easier it is for the young person, the child, to regulate themselves.
So I'm trying to think.
It's not perfectly, but it becomes a bit easier.
I'm trying to think of an example to use for our listeners.
Okay, so here's one for you. I've got an example now. I've worked with some kids, and they're like, as soon as I put the paper down and he picks up his pen, he yells at me and he'll run out the room. He's just work avoiding.
This is a student to a teacher?
Yep.
Right.
Oh, no, well, the student, So the student shows flight-like behaviour.
And this is you dealing with other teachers? Or this is... Okay,
So the teacher, everything is all about, they just want my attention, and as soon as they do work, they don't want to do work, they're work avoiding. And if you take a step back and you look at it, it's got actually nothing to do with work, because the child is more than happy to do work. It's to do with the environment and how you set up that work, because that teacher just expects there's no warm up to the lesson. There's no direct. It's just, here, write me a story.
And then do it without any...
with no scaffolding, with no support. And this is quite a generalisation, but kids, especially kids who come from trauma backgrounds, they, not always, but they find open-ended tasks very hard, because there's no structure to follow.
Yeah, sure.
So when you say, write me a story, on what? What do you write a story about?
Yeah.
So it looks like it's work avoidance, but it's got nothing. They're more than happy to tell you a story. It's to do with the fact that they don't know what you want.
So give me, then to go into that, I know in high schools, and there's definitely kids can get dysregulated and get angry quickly. What's some examples of language not to use? Obviously, be quiet right now, do as I say.
Yeah. And also to do with your tone of voice. So you can say, mate, what are you doing? And if you have that relationship with them, all of a sudden, you sort of start to de-escalate them because you're not responding. You're asking them what's wrong.
Right.
Or if you see a child get up and you know that they are someone who gets up and leaves the room, don't stop them. Ask them where they're going. Give them a functional out. Allow them to go and co-regulate, to self-regulate.
So the goal there is to keep the students safe or feeling safe instead of trying to cut down how many times they leave the class.
Yeah. Now, obviously, there will be some children who get up and leave 27 times to go vape and things like that, but you know those kids.
And you cut that down where you can.
But the kids that you know that all of a sudden, Miles is in the corner, he's doing his work, and then he just tells everyone to F off and just gets up and leave. Don't have a go at him for swearing. Clearly, that is a behaviour that is out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
So something's happening. Don't make them stay. It's okay, cool, Miles, I can see you're not feeling it right now. Go for a walk. Where are you going to go? Just so I know where you are. If you don't come back in 5 minutes, I can go and find you. Make sure you're safe. And they'll be like, I'm going down the oval. Cool. Do you ever watch and you say time for 5 minutes and come back? If you're not in 5 minutes, I'll have to call admin just to come and check on you because I can't leave the room.
So the teacher's language dealing with these situations or students that have experienced trauma or going through trauma responses, what should be the overall goal?
Keep a positive relationship. Always. Because the majority of these kids, they look at adults and they see flakiness, they see aggression. Again, you don't know what triggers their trauma. You don't know if it's a tall maths teacher with a nice shaved head. That might trigger them. And then all of a sudden you're doing everything right, but it's the fact that you look like or you sound like the person that's given them the trauma. So there's nothing you can do, no matter how cool and happy and calm you are, it's not going to work. So know the kid.
Yeah.
You know, give them a functional hour. Say, look, you know what? High school, you'd be like, you know what, mate? Just go to student services, go talk to Mrs. or Mr. So-and-so and come back when you're ready. That's all it is. Because that builds a little bit of trust because the teacher's acknowledging the student's struggle. You're not belittling them in front of everyone because as soon as you say, sit down, suck it up, what's that person going to do? Mm-hmm. They're going to arc up, they're going to dig those heels in, they're going to swear at you, they're going to trash your room, they're going to literally leave and not come back, you know? So just be nice. If you were in the same situation, what would you like?
So if we look at the next, I guess, pillar here, I don't know if you want to call it pillar, but I mean, how does predictability work as safety? So you look at routines and things like that. I mean, sorry to cut in. I've said it generally before. I mean, most students, especially in a high school situation, appreciate predictability because it takes away from the uncertainty. Does this go further for students with trauma? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, wait. So if you look at the number one thing, if you have a student with trauma in your classroom, predictability. Because they're anxious anyway. They have a high flight or flight response. I forget what it's called,
sympathetic system.
Yeah, that one. It's jacked, ready to go.
Yeah.
They're, okay, there's a fly over there buzzing. That fridge over there is making some noise.
It's a hypervigilance.
That teacher's walked back past that classroom 3 times. Why are they looking in here? Is that at me?
Yeah.
Am I doing something wrong?
Yeah.
So you can't, if you just all of a sudden, all right, class, cool, we're going to jump up and go outside. Out of nowhere, they'd be like, why are we going outside?
Yeah.
And they'll just leave.
Yeah.
Or they won't want to get up and leave.
Yeah.
Also stay in the classroom.
Yeah.
So when things are predictable, it calms your system. You know what's expected of you. If you see on the board in your lesson that you have 5 minutes of an introduction, if you're an EDI school, 5 minutes of a daily review, 5 minutes of we do, and then a break, then 5 minutes of we do, then I do.
Yeah.
It gives them time to prep themselves because they know what's coming. Now, not every child needs this, and some teachers do this to the point where you're like, you don't need to timetable every minute of your classroom for these kids, but you don't even need to put 5 minutes. You just need to chunk time. Like, first we do this, then we do this, then we do that, then it's this. Just that predictability.
Yeah, and look, I've found that schools I've worked at in my time has had a lot of students that have faced trauma in their life, but I found that your consistency throughout the week, throughout the months, and throughout the year is big as well. And they might change the lesson in a week slightly, but the students know what to expect. Yeah. After a few lessons or a few days or a few weeks.
If you try to have a solid lesson structure, not so much the content or what you're teaching, just if you've got how long are your lessons at school? 50 minutes?
60.
60 minutes?
Just over.
So what's that, 5 periods a day? Yep. So you have 60 minutes, no matter what classroom that student goes into, if they know that they're going to have the 3 minutes of just coming in, teacher tells a joke, everyone settles down, you get your stuff out, you find your seat. If you've got a seating arrangement, I don't know what sometimes schools do that to reduce, again, the anxiety of who's going to sit next to me.
Absolutely, seating plans are massive.
Yeah, so they do play a huge part. But if every student knows that 5 minutes, the first 5 minutes is a teacher making sure everyone's got their pencils, making sure that student who comes to late to class might be there on time because they know what to expect. It's not flakiness. It's not, oh, well, I think today we're going to, you lose them straight away because they're like, well, here we go, another unpredictable adult,
So we looked at language used from a teacher. We've looked at predictability. I mean, does choice play a role in this?
Depends on the child.
As a regulation tool, I guess?
Yeah, so sometimes, now the kids I work with, I am all about choice. But I work with some very unique students.
There's got to be a lot of trust in that relationship, doesn't there?
Exactly. So, because at the end of the day, kids go to school because they have to. It's the law. Yeah. Teachers are at school because they want to teach kids and
they have
make
to.
a difference.
It's the law.
They have to be there. They get paid. All that jazz. So, if you just go to school, you're like, my job is to engage this child or this young person. You can do this work, you can do that work, you can write with a black pencil, you can write with a blue pen. Who cares? Because it's just the choice allows the young person, the student, to have a bit of autonomy.
It gives them some dignity as well, doesn't it?
Because sometimes they're told they might be in a household that's very authoritarian, where everything is told exactly what to do.
Yeah.
You at 7:19, you go brush your teeth. By 7:21, you wash your toothpaste down the sink. If there's a bit of toothpaste in the sink, you're going to get a smack. Whatever happens in that house.
So let's look at, so let's take you as a teacher now, dealing with give me some examples of choice that you use on a regular to semi-regular basis.
So the way we work is all of our work is student-led. Yeah, well, not student-led, sorry. Student-centered. So all their work is based on their IEPs and things like that. So we have literacy time. Now, you have reading, spelling, writing, comprehension. In literacy, there's a whole bunch of stuff.
And the students choose who want to go within that banner.
So you do literacy. I don't care what you're doing today. You can do reading for the third time in a row.
Right.
But the work's there and the choice is theirs, because sometimes kids don't feel like writing. Then you know what? Oh, I had a long night. You know what? I'll just do some spelling. I'm pretty good at spelling.
Yeah.
Done. They're engaged. They're working on their phonemic awareness. They're doing whatever. Just let them go. Same with maths. Obviously maths is always, same as science, they're quite theory-heavy subjects to start with.
Yep.
And then once you understand the theory, you can expand it and have fun and do all that stuff. Our maths program is same thing. We have number, we have algebra, we have measurement, we have data, all those other ones. It's all ready to go. What are you doing today? Oh, you know what? I feel like doing some measurement. Cool. What's next in your measurement book? That type of... So you give them choice within that you're happy with. If you always say, oh, you either do your work or you go to detention, kids will go to detention because they're going to prove a point.
Okay, let's go the other way here. So let's work you, in your role, working with other teachers now from different schools.
Yep.
And obviously not going to name the schools, but what's some red flags you see from teachers dealing with sort of trauma students?
The biggest red flag is they don't listen to me.
The teacher saying that? Right.
Whatever I say, they don't listen. They don't do. That's quite an authoritarian approach. Instead of that red flag of that not aggressive language, but negative language. You're like, oh, great, here we go. We're going to change that mindset.
Yep.
When you get another teacher who, same type of behaviour, and they'll go, you know what, I've tried everything. I don't know what I'm doing, but I cannot get this child engaged in work. Something's going on outside of what I know. They're the ones that make the biggest difference in these children. They might not change everything, but they might go, you know what?
Well, I think of that example there, just with that person. I mean, you've got the tone, they're more relaxed. They've tried different things, so they're giving the student choices. Yep. All the things we sort of talked about.
Yep, and it's that when the biggest red flag, funny, we're talking about red flag, I've got a red toy right now.
Stop promoting your business.
Doesn't have a name. But the biggest is everything's negative. I try this, it doesn't work. I do that, they don't listen. I brought all these toys that they said they wanted, they don't play with them.
Fixed mindset versus growth mindset, yeah.
And unfortunately, for the kids with trauma, they have a very fixed mindset. And you need to teach that over time that, yes, this stuff is hard.
Yeah.
But you can do it soon. You've just got to stick with it. You know, you're going to make mistakes. And it all comes back to that trust, that relationship, and that positive tone that you have with them. You know, you can get some of those really hard to engage kids. They're working at 5 or 6 years behind their age level, and they're more than happy to sit down there and do year 3 math work because they're in a safe environment. They're not going to be made fun of. The peers, everyone is doing their own work. So the real smart kids, they're doing stuff that I don't know how to do, but it's really hard and they struggle.
Sure.
Then you get the kids who are academically weak, they're also struggling just with different stuff. So you're rewarding that effort, you're rewarding the choice of doing work, you know. And also there's some teachers, here's another thing back to choice, the teachers that do really well with the kids with trauma are the ones that gauge the student when they walk into the classroom. They'll see the child come in
on a day-to-day basis, yeah.
And they'll go,
yeah,
oof,
today's not the day.
look at that. Those shoulders are hunched. He's normally got his bag on both shoulders. That's on one shoulder. He's not happy today. So you know what? I'll go over and go, you know what, Miles? I can see you're not feeling it right now. Just let me sort the class out and I'll come have a chat to you.
Yeah.
And then you give them something to play with, read a puzzle, let them sit there and with their head on the table. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, and a common saying in teaching is choose your own battles as well. You don't want to go to you don't want to go to war every lesson with every student.
No, why? What's it going to achieve?
Yeah, so let's do this, Matthew. So for any listener out there who's possibly going through a hard time with these type of students or these students, how could you sum up this episode in 2 minutes? Or without a time frame?
Treat the young person, treat the student, the child, whatever you want to call them, the same way you would want to be treated. The same way, if you have children, now obviously when you have kids, it's easier to say, oh, you know, you just treat these kids how you want your child to be treated.
Yeah.
Some people don't have kids.
Sure.
So then you say you treat them how you'd want to be treated. Because I work with some teachers, I'll be like, yo, would you treat your kid like that? They're like, absolutely not. I'm like, well, why would you do it to someone else's kid?
Yeah.
You know, like, just be a nice human.
Have human decency, isn't it?
At the end of the day, the kids will learn something in your class. Be it a coping mechanism or a coping skill because the teacher lets them leave, get a drink, come back. Or they'll learn that you're an asshole and you're not to be trusted. Kids will learn something in every single class. It's up to you to see what it is.
Absolutely.
So just be a nice human, and after you're a nice human, once the Maslow needs are met, you know, your basic Maslow needs, they're fed, they've had a drink, they feel connection, they've, you know, had a bit of a sleep, you know, all those things, then you can worry about the next step up, which is self-realization, I think.
No, esteem,
yeah.
Self-esteem.
So, but you need to meet those bottom ones. There's a reason why it's the biggest part. And unfortunately, with the kids I work with, we solely base on the first one.
Yeah.
And then by the time we're sort of ready to transition these students out or they get a job or whatever, the school then takes over and does the rest of it based on strategies and suggestions. But just be nice.
Yeah, just some strategies and some theory how to sort of work with students from a trauma background.
It's very hard to give generic strategies, only because every child is different. And, you know, there's a whole bunch of stuff online. The department runs a bunch of stuff as well. But all those trauma modules, they're all the same thing. You know, just do the free ones. Read it.
Yeah.
And it might make a huge difference to one child in your class. You might be what's his name? Robin Williams from Good Will Hunting. You might be that person to Matt Damon.
And then, just to finish off, team, any experience you've had or any comments, you know, feel free to comment on the section below or email us or reach out, and I'm more than happy to sort of communicate and see what's going on.
Absolutely.
Like always, thanks for listening.